So good evening, and we will start our April 7th meeting. It is at 5 o'clock. It's a delight to have people here and presenters here, and yeah, we will get to order. As for some of you who are new to this process, it is very structured, and so, enjoy that. But if there's any public comment that wants to be made, you would fill out a white slip that's about stuff that's not on our agenda tonight. And if you want to speak to anything that is on our agenda, there are copies of the agenda here on the wall. Thank you, Jamie. Then you would fill out a pink slip and speak during the time that is called. Okay, so we will go to call to order. Roll call.
Let the record show all commissioners are present except Commissioner Kadakia, who is absent.
Thank you. And for those who would like, we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we have two special presentations tonight. Jamie, do you want to introduce those?
The first presenter is Hillel Schwartz. He's going to be speaking about public art in Encinitas. He's an archivist with the Encinitas Historical Society. You may come up to the podium and you may present to the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you for allowing me to present here tonight. And I will be presenting an explanation, both historical and present day, of public art in Encinitas, which I define as one-of-a-kind, non-commercial work, fully and freely visible to an undifferentiated public. One of a kind would mean that it's not industrially produced. So if you buy 14 pink flamingos and put them in your yard, that does not count as public art from my perspective. However, if you turn them every which way and upside down and put them on their heads and make a wonderful display, yes, it might just work. Some cities are known for their public art, which is also called street art, roadside art, recycled art, wall art, yard art, community art. But what distinguishes Encinitas? The extraordinary variety of our public art. I have here an alphabetical list of all the media that I have spotted as I have done my inventory since November of this year. And I'll give you a glimpse of some of this variety in the next few minutes. Our unusual constellation of soulful, rambunctious, rough-hewn, and polished work by both occasional and professional artists, most of them local. And then third, the astonishing number and ubiquity of these works of art. That map is not a work of art itself, that is not inventorying all the art, it is a commercial work, but it is in the window of a building on 101. Public art in Encinitas is everywhere for the looking, far more than what is shown to date on our only dedicated art map made by the city, which shows about 30 different works. For example, do you know where this is? It's quite lovely. Or this. Some of you may find this more familiar if you've been in the San Elijo campground. Or this. You will find public art on walls of stucco or cinder block. Live in the Dream, however, has disappeared along with the dream for that business. On wood siding, on steel and aluminum containers, and on mobile home walls that are turned into bead, marble, and brocade. That's one mobile home. You will find art on windows, on fences and other fences, on driveway gates and otherworldly gates, on sidewalks, beach steps and benches, and that bench is rarely noticed because it's usually covered with sand. And steps down to underground parking, on chimneys, on pediments. The beachside bar and grill, of course, has disappeared. Rooftops, that's disappeared. And you will find our public art on trash bins, utility boxes, storage containers, and outside lockers. At the entry to apartment complexes where Timothy Leary lived, loved, and got high, mobile home parks, and hospitals. And just inside that hospital, high up on the walls of the lobby. Inside restaurants, too. Libraries and schoolyards. In the open patios of private residences, including the famous Rock and Roll House, which has also vanished. And above an outdoor fireplace, or on the edge of a cliff, outside, but deceptively so, as trompe-l'oeil images at Keith's Automotive and the San Elijo Water Campus. And that particular mural was not commissioned by them, I learned. It was suddenly, overnight, sprung upon them. And you can only see it from about a 3-foot little hole in the wire fence on the walk going north on the outside edge of the water campus itself. So I had the manager take a picture of that for me. In an alleyway, in the same alleyway, in another alleyway, and entirely different, and yet another, which covers over a previous mural that was also there in Cardiff. Or smack dab on 101 with a mosaic a few steps west, a mural across the road, pelicans a few steps north, and a mosaic medallion just south. Down a side road, or a narrow lane, and that is actually a museum itself. It is a museum in a box, and it has miniature art, and if you want, you can bring your own miniature art and trade it for the art inside the box. The only instructions are, do not take the people inside who are looking at the art, just the art itself. In parks, in trees, and really in trees, at viewpoints and with viewpoints, defiantly out in the open, or quietly within a courtyard known only to a few in a business office park. You will find it in places entirely surprising, as off the freeway here, up near the exit to Manchester, or entirely ephemeral, drawing light, as it were, from the very air, or circling around the sun from far below. I began taking photos of public art about 20 years ago when I first got a phone that had a camera on it, on my walks around Leucadia, where I've lived since 1982. I did nothing systematic, however. I just took what caught my eye. And this caught my eye many times, but it has now also vanished. In November, in my new position as archivist of the Encinitas Historical Society, I began to wonder who had been keeping track of all the art that I had been enjoying by foot and by bike for decades. I asked around. It turned out that the city itself has a list of just 34 works, those it was responsible for maintaining. But even the 3 doves in the very front of City Hall right here still go unremarked, with no sign of a title, artist, or the history of this, which is quite substantial and belongs to the sister city program of Encinitas. Ditto for the 28 bollards you passed on your way in front of City Hall. No record anywhere that I can find. So this is the first record. My inventory is the very first record of all the artists who have created this. Thankfully, the Encinitas Cultural Arts Department has created an online tour of the mosaics on the Santa Fe underpass using the ArcGIS story maps, and it's very well done. 53 mosaics, each of which has a title an explanation of the title, the name of the artist, something about the artist, and if you can see on the top left, the numbers in blue indicate exactly where it can be found on the underpass. Quite well done. And they will soon be working to do a video document of the 17 mosaics recently installed at the El Portal pedestrian underpass, and this will be central to a teaching project at the new Pacific View Arts Center. But there has never been a thorough inventory of the public art in Encinitas. 30 months ago, however, Mark O'Connor and Christine Schindler made 3 art odysseys by bike down 101. They mapped 67 works in hopes of conducting cycling tours of the public art they had found, getting folks out of cars to explore Encinitas. 3 months ago, using their maps as a backbone and the many photographic blog posts by Richard Schulte of cool San Diego sites, in addition to my own folders of photographs, I started to draw up an inventory of all the public art that I could find west of I-5. I wanted what any obsessive archivist wants: the names of artists, the titles and the years of their works, medium, dimensions, sponsors, stories. But as an historian, I also meant to document what's here and what was once here, like these frogs below and many of the other images I have just shown you. In fact, among those images I have shown you, 8 have already vanished. They have not vanished for any malicious reasons. The building was torn down or burnt down. The store owners changed. The muralists who had done the previous one saw that the previous one was decaying in the salty air from the ocean, and they proposed to do a new one. To date, with help from artists and residents, I have located 571 works of public art west of I-5, 60 of which have vanished, and 157 works east of I-5, 5 of which have vanished. It's a little bit less salty air east of I-5. If we add to this the 140 artfully painted or crafted mailboxes east and west of I-5, we arrive at 803 works of public art visible today. Now, San Diego itself, the city, claims 800 works of public art in 340 square miles. We have 19 square miles. And this is not counting another 40 distinctive signs at the entrances to public parks, beaches, and viewpoints, one of which I only recently discovered myself, which is the metallic bone for the Maggie Houlihan Memorial Dog Park. And whatever pops up momentarily but with very familiar frequency, such as cairns of precariously balanced rocks all along the Cardiff beach, usually every winter, somebody starts doing it and others continue that process, and they stay up despite the winds for weeks. So that's why I began to create this inventory, which is still in progress, listing all of the information about each work of art that I know of. And in addition to this, and you do not see that on that particular slide, I also indicate the kind of access you have to it, whether it's by car, or only by foot and by bicycle. Why all this fuss? To honor artists and affirm their artistry, which I presume is one of the intents of the Arts Commission itself. To exalt in a community that welcomes art of all kinds around us, which I assume to be one of the ambitions of the Arts Commission. And to establish an historical record so comprehensive that public art is understood as vital to the long-term identity of Encinitas. So we now have a fine opportunity to make public art as emblematic of Encinitas as its surfers and surf breaks. There may be less than 800 of those. Its skateboarders and skate parks, there are probably more than 800 skateboarders. Its SRF and botanic gardens, its beach viewpoints and lagoon trails. So long as we identify and keep track of public art from now on, digitally map and index that art so it's available online, establish public art tours by foot, bike, bus, and car, assess the historical impact of the work of artists and the public presence of their art in Encinitas, at least since the 1960s, when there was a very great collection of ceramicists in Encinitas. And that is the idea behind this project, as undertaken by me and others volunteering with me at the Historical Society. Why am I hopeful that this idea can work? The numbers, 800 works of art. The degree of community engagement. Unlike many other of the cities famous for their works of art, most of these have been created and maintained by residents themselves. The respect. No matter where I go, I find little or no vandalism anywhere. No graffiti on any of these works of art, no matter how big they are, except on 2 utility boxes. The welcome. Wherever I go to take a photograph of yard art or art inside or outside of a business, the people come out interested in what I'm doing, and when I tell them that I'm an archivist making a record for the community, they say, well, why don't you come around to this side and take a better picture? Or I have more in the backyard. Or do you want to come inside? I have all my real work inside. And I say, no, public art, art that's visible from the public thoroughfare. So if you have a better picture of it when it was originally built, I would use that. But I need to be able to show it as it will be seen by the public. And finally, the grand success of Dave Dean's Rock Art Garden, which began when he started to clear away garbage and weeds from a small patch of ground by the side of the road to Moonlight Beach, and is now contoured with paths, plants, sculptures, rocks painted by people from all over the world. And perhaps you have been there recently. It is still growing, And it is probably the most visited site by tourists in Encinitas now as a single site, because it is a place where people can make art and contribute to that themselves immediately. The point of this PowerPoint is to make clear the powerful presence of public art in Encinitas. You have had a glimpse of about 1/8 of what there is to see. So we need not invent or revive a world of art that reflects and invigorates our community. It is already here. And that's the point of this presentation. Can you help us make this clear that it is already here? Collaborate in creating an elegant GIS map of the public art where a click on a digital dot yields a photograph, the name of the artist, the title, the medium, the year, the dimensions, link to artist websites, something like the Encinitas ArcGIS map that's already at Story Maps. Perhaps there could be a more dynamic component. Treat each art address as the origins for a tour with a series of directions to other works of art aligned by artist, genre, or geography. For example, let's say you see one work by Deanne Sabeck. There should be a way for you to know exactly where to go to see the rest of her art that's in public view in Encinitas. There are at least 4 pieces of hers in public view. Or do you want to see a specific genre and just have a tour of all them by yourself, alone? Murals, sculptures, art gardens, painted mailboxes, mosaics. Mailboxes, then. Okay, here are some mailboxes. Here are the addresses for the mailboxes. I'm not giving you the names of the people who live there. These are all private residences, but you can certainly go from mailbox to mailbox. There's one street, Aloha, that's right near the Ocean Nose School, which has 9 beautifully designed mailboxes. And on the corner, it has a wonderful pedestal column that's been painted by 4 different teenagers. Do you want to cycle along Neptune or Vulcan or the Coast Highway? Wherever you are in Encinitas, okay, maybe Cardiff. Here are all the places to go in Cardiff. We can have a map like that, a brochure like that. Or maybe you would prefer a treasure hunt. Okay, find these 5 works somewhere along Vulcan Avenue in Leucadia. Does anybody recognize any of them? You've seen them all? That's great. And I won't keep you in suspense any longer. From those original mystery artworks that I showed you at the beginning, one is at 576 Crest Drive, another 521 East Glaucus Street, and the third is in the Santa Leo State Beach Amphitheater. There are also several modes or modules that we could use that could be featured on the website of the Chamber of Commerce. Visit Encinitas. It could be featured in the websites of the Encinitas City. All of this can be done, and it only needs several different processes. A person to put in the data, a person to make sure it is all accessible digitally, and someone to make sure that it is maintained over the years. So we could put it also on our Historical Society website with this kind of information. Historically, this mural by Stanton, originally done by the Converse website in 2013, was installed near the corner frame shop in Leucadia and then on the north wall of the frame shop, but it vanished around 2022. I learned recently that it was actually sold, and they put a new mural on top of the one that had been there. And there could be something that reaches out to the rest of the United States, because online there is a public art archive. And we could list Encinitas along with Philadelphia, Lancaster, Culver City, with almost as many items as Philadelphia, as one of the prominent places to go to see art in the United States. Less dynamically, but still valuable, especially if it's designed in a visually enthralling way, there could be a brochure of the art, or at least the genres of art, in Encinitas. And that one could be downloaded to a mobile phone or a tablet as an app for people who would like to go on self-guided tours by foot, bike, or even horseless carriage. One that is open to contributions from local artists and from residents who have just created or installed a work of art. It would be great if the arts programs here could have a submit your public art website or aspect to their website so that we learn what else is there that I haven't seen yet. And even perhaps, if I'm really ambitious, one that uses mixed media. There is this quite well-done mural of 8 different artists who are musicians in Encinitas area. They all gathered at one time before this mural, and they all have recorded music. Perhaps we could have an acoustic version of a tour of the murals of Encinitas. Do you have any questions?
Thank you so much. It was a delight and really exciting and I'd say invigorating and reinvigorating as far as being on the commission and knowing that this is such an integral part of our culture here and not feeling that sense that it needs to be, that's always something we're working toward, that we're starting here and we're growing it. So questions?
Sorry, Carla. Thank you for this. It's so great to be reminded of not only the breadth of art here, but the many categories that we don't always think of, maybe, or I don't always think of as being public art. All the great mailboxes and kind of ephemeral things, the sand mandalas, and I
left out the birdhouses. Oh yeah.
One thing you touched on that really strikes me is the idea of creating an archive. It's such a dynamic and kind of evanescent thing. My day job is working for Visit San Diego as a writer-editor, and one of my projects is our own mural presence on the website. And we don't try to be comprehensive because there are just so many in the city of San Diego. But even given the small-ish sample size that we have on the site, it's like every hour something changes, and trying to keep track of that. So having someone to take ownership of it of an archive like that, I think, is kind of key. That there's somebody or there are people who are there to keep updating it and adding to it. Mm-hmm. Well,
you know that the Visit Encinitas is working with my inventory and 4 students in the advanced design class at Miracosta College in Oceanside to create the first bicycling tour of about 90 images up and down the 101 corridor.
That looks fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. So, that's my comment.
Yeah, thank you. This was so exciting to see all of the different artwork over the years, and like you were saying. Oh, sorry. Like you were saying, just the different formats that the art can take, mailboxes, and I was wondering if somebody wanted to get involved to pick and choose some things and to create unique tours and individual tours, how would they go about doing that?
Well, they would contact either the Historical Society or Visit Encinitas, which has much of the material that I have photographed and inventoried on their own drive. And they would be happy to encourage other kinds of tours than the ones we're already engaged in creating now. Mm-hmm. There are 1 or 2 people who already, since Art Night, who've wanted to volunteer to do more. So there are 4 things I need as an archivist. I need more information. That's what an archivist always needs. I don't have the names of all the artists, even of the most public art. And I don't have photographs of some of the art that has disappeared. And that people probably took pictures of, but I just didn't take a picture of that. So I need that. I need, thirdly, we need as a group to create an inventory that's reliable. We also need to know whether there were particular sponsors for each work of art. Paint Encinitas was a sponsor for a few things. Utility boxes in Cardiff were sponsored by 101 Cardiff, and 101 Encinitas had more, and 101 Leucadia. So I don't know all the sponsors because the sponsors themselves have had different leadership at different times. And then we also finally would need people to volunteer to go and see if they can find more art. I've been bicycling around since November. It's easier, by the way, to do it by bicycle. You can't stop your car every 14 seconds. But if people can say, oh, I have a neighbor who has a really great tree house. Should we begin doing an inventory of tree houses? Yes, yes.
I just want to say thank you so much for such a great presentation. I thought it was really thorough, and I really appreciated that you offered so many ideas and solutions for how to go about accomplishing the different tours and the different archiving and map systems. I think half the work is already done, and I like your idea of amplifying the art and artists who are currently here and working. And thanks also for highlighting, just the treasure trove of art that just happens organically because people are inspired by where they live. And the lack of graffiti, which I have also noticed as someone who moved here about 3 years ago, it's a big deal that you can leave things out and have them live on without destruction. So just want to say appreciation for this. And I think we can, kind of take some of the ideas here and maybe incorporate into ideas for the cultural district or, even maybe different fundraising ideas. So thank you.
Yeah, and this was all done, by the way, no grants. This costs simply bicycle tire mileage. And to do some of these digital things might require some IT expertise and some grant money or some donors. But there are people out there who are interested in having their art seen, which is the point of public art.
I'll go ahead, and I would like to say I appreciate the presentation, and I feel like it opened my eyes more. Like oh wow, I take things for granted. I go through Encinitas and maybe with my eyes closed or something, and there's just so much, and it is really important to know the origin of music, the origin of the art, because it's like music, and I'm into music, that if you're going to share music, it's important to get some background and who's a composer and the inspiration of it being written, and maybe some of the backstory about it. And that's I just feel like I appreciate it so much, your effort, and also your vitality of appreciating our art and Encinitas. I was just wondering, I mean, what would be some ideas that you think that the commission could facilitate?
Any part of my suggestions, certainly, but one of the things that happens when people go around individually asking about work is that they get those backstories. I'll give you an example. I was photographing the wonderful strings of folded origami birds in the windowed alcove of the Cardiff Library. And the librarian came up and he said, you know, that was done by the yoga students in Cardiff who were studying with a yoga teacher here who was undergoing cancer therapy. And during her chemo and radiation, they created these origami birds to help her recovery. And she recovered fully and is back to teaching yoga. What a wonderful backstory for a work of art that I already enjoyed.
Well, Hillel, thank you again so much. And I'm excited that this relationship has been established. I see Director Dave Knopp raising his hand over there. Dave, do you have something to add?
Yes, thank you. I have a question or an idea to throw out. So many different things when you're giving that presentation. I've been fortunate enough to see your presentation now twice. Thank you very, very, very kindly. It's as someone driving through the community to go to different parks, it's exciting to see things that, hey, I've seen that. I've seen the whale on the wall on the side of that business. We've also, with the senior programming, have started to do more virtual programming where the seniors are taking trips with headsets on. And I look at this and I'm like, wow, wouldn't that be great in this process to have that art, like, okay, as part of our programs, you can put on the headset or you could do it at home and be able to see all those art pieces or as many as you could. And, you know, when you're talking 800 pieces, like that would be, you know, tremendous. So we look forward to where this goes, you know, moving forward and, you know, hopefully, you know, being part of it and working with you. But I think that's very exciting and thank you for the presentation.
There is one thing we're going to be doing with the students at Miracosta, which is under all of the categories describing a work of art, there's going to be a final category at the bottom that says, look around. Because probably at any point where you're looking at a work of art, there are others almost immediately visible. So for people with limited mobility, finding different points in Encinitas where they don't have to go very far to see a dozen works of art would be really workable with that senior program.
Well, and you've already hit on is that being able to get there on bike, be able to get there in car, van, you know, and then virtual headset creates a whole new experience. But yeah, this is a great opportunity.
Good.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So next on the agenda, we have another presentation, which we're very lucky to get, by Allison Hanley, who is the Board of Directors President of the Oceanside Museum of Art. It's yours.
Hard act to follow, Hillel. I wish that, you know, I had been first, frankly. But anyway, I'm honored to be here, and I'd like to thank Commissioner Fox for inviting me to attend. And I'd also like to thank... She didn't bring her ears with her. Oh, I don't want to be too close. Can you hear me now? Okay, certainly. I want to thank all of you as commissioners for volunteering your time and talent to help make Encinitas a better place and a better place for art, which has been an important part of my life. And Colette, do I press the green if I want to forward it?
Let's try.
Middle.
Is it the middle one, the yellow? No, no? Oh, I'm seeing the color. I'm very visual, so I went to the colors and didn't look for the technology. First and foremost, it's a pleasure to be able to come here and talk to you about one of my favorite subjects, the Oceanside Museum of Art. I love this quote for those of us who hail from the East Coast. Rightly or wrongly, the New York Times carries a lot of import around culture. And when our executive director, who joined the museum, Maria Mingalone, in 2015 or 16, comes from the East Coast, and we couldn't find any information in our archives and historical records that we had ever made it into the New York Times. Well, I'm here to tell you we've made it in 3 times, and it is the best place to see Southern California art. I became involved with OMA because of my interest and my background in art and teaching. I taught high school art, was my first career. I was primarily a high school English teacher, but art was a close second in terms of the number of students that I got to interact with. And I really learned about and experienced the power of art to transform, as we saw in this wonderful prior presentation. A little bit about Oceanside Museum of Art. We showcase the best visual arts talent in the region, and we celebrate and inspire the transformative power of art. Since 1997, I lived here in the 80s and the 90s, but left in 1998. If I had been in Oceanside 3 times in those 12 years, that would have been quite an accomplishment. So when I moved back here in 2014, I just was intrigued and had to go up and see. It's a welcome, friendly, and inclusive hub for creativity, and I think this is really important to the mission of the Oceanside Museum of Art. It's a celebration of community. So we have wide-ranging exhibits. I was not here, but Rosemary and her sister may have been when they had the Outrider show of the souped-up cars and vehicles that took place and included the front of the museum space. But we also bring people together and celebrate first-time solo artists. In order to have your work featured at the Oceanside Museum of Art, you have to be a California artist, and predominantly you have to be a Southern California artist. So this is visceral and an important part of our mission. And we support, as is stated here, the full creative life and experience for all, regardless of age, regardless of background, regardless of familiarity with art. We embrace policies and practices of cultural equity that empower a just, inclusive, and equitable community. OMA has inspiring exhibitions. We also have award-winning education programs, and frankly, that's what spoke to me and made my heart sing when I first got involved. And we have a wide range of dynamic events, activities, and offerings throughout the year. OMA is one of the 14 California cultural districts in the state. And just in case you're curious, the other 2 that are in our region are Barrio Logan and Balboa Park. So the Oceanside Museum of Art is in good company. And I remember when I had the honor of chairing the gala. You get involved with the board at OMA, and one of the first things they want you to do is chair the gala. I hate chairing galas. I've done so much of that in my professional life, and when I say hate, that's a strong word. But I made sure that for the first time in people's memories, that we invited all of the local officials, not only in Oceanside, but Tasha Bonner we invited, and she showed up, and we gave her the opportunity to speak. And of course, at that time, Oceanside, prior to redistricting, was in her area. And she talked about how Encinitas had tried for a long time to get this designation. So she was happy to be there. We had just received word. This was 2019, right before COVID happened. But she also was thrilled that we have this designation. So we're the only one in North County, which is an important distinction, we think. In 2023, we had 30,937 visitors. 50% of those visitors experienced the museum free of charge, made possible like programs such as Blue Star Museums and Art for All free Sundays. Arts education, again, this is, and Commissioner Romer, you'll recognize your dear friend, Terry Zimdar, who was on the board when I first met her, and she basically single-handedly started the docent program. I was a docent. I loved it because you would always get the private walkthrough with each of the artists, and they would share with you about their process as well as what the art meant to them. And those were the kinds of little, as you were saying, the little tidbits about people and creators that, in addition to, we can say, loftier conversations about art, we certainly are focused on what does this visual object inspire in you. But the two programs that actually Commissioner Fox and I talked a lot about, which are funded by donors, are the Literacy Through Art third grade program and ArtQuest, which is a fifth grade integrated science and art program. These are donor financed, and they serve 100% of third and fifth graders in all of the Oceanside public schools. The Oceanside public schools in any given year for those grades, it ranges between 900 and 1,300, just depending on the capacity and the enrollment at the schools. But what was really striking to me as a former educator and a former principal and a school psychologist in some other lives is that 15 of the 16 public schools in Oceanside are Title I schools. So when we meet with the children and invite them in, and this is not just a come and look at some pretty pictures experience, this is tied in directly with the California curriculum standards, core curriculum. It involves a professional development opportunity for the teachers of those grades at the museum, and for any particular topic or activity, there is preparation, there is the experience, and then there is a continuation. So it's embedded and is an integral part. The teachers are very enthusiastic about it, and we're in the process of expanding and looking at ways that we could interface with adjacent or nearby school districts. So that's part of what prompted, I think, Commissioner Fox, our brainstorming about, well, what might be. So this is my attempt to share with you what is possible. Here are some of the activities. Discover Art Tour program is an affiliated opportunity for all schools in North County and beyond. So join us for a tour. After my presentation, I will leave with Jamie Lewis my business cards, which they say trustee. That was the first time I was on the board. Now we're directors, same title, same job, different title. But also, I wanted to leave with you, and Commissioner Fox, I'll give you this. These are for the two third and fifth grade programs because it would be a little bit too much in baseball, except I know we have at least one other educator who is a commissioner. We would probably really geek out on some of the data in here, but I'll leave it with Commissioner Fox. But let me know if you have my card, whether you'd like to come for a docent-driven visit. As a group, we can arrange that, and if she's available, I think Terry Zimdar would be the very best person. We'd love to see you. How many of you have been up to the Oceanside Museum of Art ever, just out of curiosity? Okay, a couple. We'd love to see that all of you participate. Membership and volunteering. I visited the museum for the first time, and there was a wonderful docent who actually lived in Cardiff. She has retired from helping, who she recruited me on the spot. I said, I'm going to sign up for a membership, I promise. And she said, well, you should be a volunteer. What would you like to do here? That's how we're not quite that aggressive, but Phyllis was a really skilled person at making those presentations. But we'd love to have you come by to find out more about us, but also explore opportunities for a variety of volunteering activities. I'd like to also share with you, and I'll leave a few of these as well. We have these individual cards for every single exhibit. So if you come to the museum, you can get them. And I need to acknowledge Colette Murphy because she developed this format when she was part of the family. And I was gushing and oohing and awing the first time I met her. So we've just copied the same. I hope there isn't any copyright on how you do these, but these are wonderful information pieces that you can take away if there was a particular exhibit that just spoke to you. This is a quick outline, and then I will take any questions of current exhibitions. May 3rd, rather than doing individual opening parties or celebrations for every exhibit, because we have many areas to exhibit and a rotating series of exhibits, we've found it's useful to cluster several new activities and new showings. This is the little brochure, Mary June in Losing Sleep I Painted. This is her solo exhibition. And the Art of Autism, a different lens, in partnership with the Art of Autism San Diego. We have partnered with the Art of Autism group for about 5 years now with exhibits, all of the art. It's a fabulous exhibit. I just toured it on Friday. And these are all young people and artists of many ages who are on the autism spectrum. It's always a wonderful and exciting show, and this is the first time for many of these artists that they've ever had their art displayed in an art museum. And then this wonderful Ventana Huishola, curated by Natalie Gonzalez, that will be there in April. So I think that's it for my remarks, but I would be happy to take any questions.
Well, again, thank you so much. It's really part of our goal here, I think, is just to become more and more educated and more connected and understand how municipalities do different things and cities do things and communities do things. And so it's a great opportunity, I think, to build some of those bridges, especially as neighbors, literally. So questions?
I don't know about questions, but I just think it's amazing. What a great night this is so far. And so I felt like I was ready to jump out of my seat when you mentioned about the literacy through art and the art quest, and how it's tied to the curriculum standards. And you're an educator, and it's always about teaching to standards. And I just feel like that it's the standards are not just limited to the four walls of of an educational institution, and I think it's important to teach about the creative process and about the performance process and responding and connecting, and that just really excites me because it just seems like makes me think about what we could do in Encinitas to help bring students out of their four walls, and to see, obviously, with all the art that Hillel shared. Encinitas is really bursting at the seams here with a lot of art in so many ways. So.
And as an educator, you would appreciate, but I think others would too. I was sharing with a new friend, acquaintance, that there now is documented research that having a cultural experience, whether for you it's visual, so you would come to OMA, or if it's music, there are fabulous performances here, that some of them free at the library, or drama is that it's now documented that in terms of dealing with, which we all know coming out of COVID and having gone through COVID's experience, that that experience is equivalent to taking a powerful drug comparable to things like Prozac, which I've never had, but I know people who have. And it's when you start to hear some of that research about the impact, it always breaks my heart when districts, and I've worked for public districts and private as well, in the K through 12 panel, the first things that always get cut, very sadly, are art and music. They're perceived as being extraneous, and yet in my career, and particularly my background in special education, sometimes those were the only vehicles to really be able to touch a child and to engage them in education and learning. So.
No questions for me. Just wanted to say thank you and thanks for all the work that you do, especially, volunteering your time. And I also really appreciated the core curriculum aspects and the STEM connection. And I do think that is can be life-changing for kids, And as someone who had arts and music cut from their school program as a, elementary school kid, things like that were really special. So thank you.
Thank you.
Don't want to run over you again, Carla. I'm just here to interrupt you. So. Yeah, thank you so much. I actually did not know that the Art of Autism exhibition is going, I guess it's up right now.
Yes.
I just looked at the list of artists and I saw that Jeremy Cecile Kira is on there, who we actually have a portrait done by him of my son in our home. My son also, who's also on the spectrum, and they're friends. So I'm going to definitely have to get out there and see that. One quick question, because as you may know, the idea of having Encinitas become a California cultural district has been in process, and it's a really a great distinction to have. As you mentioned, there aren't that many communities that can say that they have that distinction. I was curious whether you have seen that visitors, come to the museum or come to Oceanside and express that part of the reason they're there is because the community is a California cultural district?
Very definitely, and there's now a sign on one side of the Highway 5. But we not only partner, as I was explaining, with the schools and the library, by the way, for the 2 art grade-related programs, but we partner with many organizations. And we were instrumental when the 2 new hotels went up along the water in Oceanside. The company commissioned our executive director to select all of the art that not only is in the public spaces, but also is in the rooms, in the accommodation. And we have what we call OMA West, which is a dedicated gallery space in I always get the name mixed up. Is it Seabreeze? I think. And some of the brochures that I'll leave feature the exhibit that is currently there. What that has enabled is us to, as a community, with support from the city and from this designation, to become a destination for arts tourism. And Oceanside Museum of Art is, frankly, if you used to be in retail, we're the anchor tenant. The designation would not exist without us. Mm-hmm. And we are compelling as an entity that can help drive, not control, but can call people to assemble, to have conversations, to work closely with the Downtown Association, the Chamber. And it's really been a very appealing and productive association. And as a docent, one of the things, we keep notes and records, obviously that's why we can give you a number of visitors, but as a docent, we would always ask, well, where are you from and are you visiting? And it ranges, of course, with the proximity of Pendleton and the other military presence throughout the county. That often is an attraction, but it's amazing. There are people certainly from across the United States, but also international visitors who they'll be wandering down Pier Way and they'll see this and they're surprised sometimes and wander in, but it's always very revealing. And many people, they make Oceanside a destination because we've got a surf museum also. There are several other, we're not the only game in town, even though we are the anchor tenant because we're big, compared to some of the other smaller cultural places to visit. So we've noticed that a lot.
No questions for me either, but I wanted to say thank you as well. And one of the things that I really appreciate about OMA, not only the dedication to education, but also to local artists and just the inclusive access to creating and being shown is really special and unique. And then also with the partnership with the hotels, how that was a wonderful opportunity for so many local artists to be purchased by the hotels and just their artwork to be on display for international visitors. So really
and that
inspirational.
happened during COVID was when they were being built. So for many artists who lost immediately, and musicians and others, but our focus is the visual arts, it was life-changing for them. I think that's the other piece that we learned, and we continue to have an affiliation with the hotels. So now we have the capacity with 2 wonderful venues, and there are all sorts of neat restaurants too. And as a docent with visitors, they ask you everything. Where should we go to lunch? And so we are constantly promoting, back to your question, the community. It's not just us. This is what's here. And I live in Leucadia, and I love that Leucadia, and Encinitas certainly too, but also Oceanside. There's that still funky beach vibe that I hope never, ever changes. So thank you so much.
And Allison, again, just before you go, I know
yes.
that Dave also had a question.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thank you for the presentation. I loved it. And I get left with a question in regards to really the background of recreation and making that a difference, especially with youth and teens. How do you draw people who are maybe challenged economically or maybe challenged not knowing that this opportunity is out there? Is there a reach out, or is it just so much, and if they want to, some of them just reach out to you?
I think we have proactive attempts to reach out. So all of those thousands of children that come through, and by the way, we have other schools that randomly come, and we have partnerships with the community colleges and the universities. So there is a constant stream. But all of those children get a goodie bag with some art supplies. They get a free pass, and they're told during their time, bring your family here. And we have free Sundays once a month. We have other free days. Former military attend for free. We would love sometime to be able, and children are free, obviously, to be able to open the doors and be completely free, but we haven't found that benefactor yet who will underwrite it for us. But that's one thing I see. And then we just, everybody who's tied to the economy in Oceanside really seem to see themselves as ambassadors. So it's a reciprocity, but there's a random factor too. Anytime I'm there, I talk to everybody who comes in, and it's like, oh, I lived here my whole life, I've never been here. We don't want to be the best kept secret anymore in North County. And I think that's changing.
The presentation on autism, what a great opportunity to teach what that is and break some of the stereotypes and doing that through art. That's amazing. So, like I said, thank you, and I'm glad you're out there doing that.
Thank you. you very much.
And I just wanted to put a thank you. This place, it's no secret, this place is near and dear to my heart, the art and artists and the experiences there. So thank you for coming and sharing that with us.
Thank you. Good to see you, Colette.
Okay, so we will continue along our agenda here with oral communications, and I believe we have one, if not more.
For oral communications today, we have one speaker. Naime Woodward with the Encinitas Friends of the Arts is here to speak about public arts. And as a reminder, you have 3 minutes to address the commission.
Okay, well, I'll try to make it even quicker. First of all, thank you, Hillel. It's just been wonderful to collaborate and to hear what Hillel is doing, because obviously public art is very dear to all of us at Encinitas Friends of the Arts, and it's been something that we've been trying to support and advocate for. And in terms of Oceanside Museum, obviously thank you, and I know Maria very well. So for you guys to know that when we were advocating for the Pacific View Art Center, Maria personally sent me a letter that she said she would support, so that they can perhaps advocate or do something with the Pacific View Art Center. So please keep that in mind. I have that letter, so I can forward it to you just in case you want to use it. And moving forward, I just wanted to make some comments about public arts. And first of all, I wanted to share good news that our board of directors has approved purchasing of one of the sculptures that is located in Cardiff. So we will be sending the appropriate forms, and Colette is kindly going to send me the application for the 3rd time, because I happen to lose it all the time. So it will be forthcoming, and it's in partnership with the community in Cardiff. So, and I know public art is a big agenda, so I'm glad this is short and sweet, so we can move forward with what you have. But I just wanted to make some comments as you're discussing the public arts, because I used to be a commissioner, so we've been talking about public arts for 17 years, so it's wonderful to really have that conversation again. I just want to make sure that you converse about future pedestals. So for example, if we were to purchase the sculpture in Cardiff and donate it back to the city as a permanent collection, you perhaps part of this was so you can have more sculpture paths. So think about how you're going to make that happen. And also, who pays for the stands? I know we went to the county for that, so we are happy to help you out with that. The maintenance of the artworks, wants to become for the temporary and as well as the permanent. I know that there's been some conversations, but please take a look at that. What's the process for taking the artwork down, the installation at the end of the the temporary artwork? I didn't come across it, so I just want to put it out there. And process for purchasing temporary sculpture to permanent, which we're going to be engaged in, so hopefully that would be another good example, because we've done it. We donated the Jeffries sculpture. And lastly, murals. Existing versus new ones. We do really need to have some policy around that. So thank you for your time, and that's it.
Thank you so much, Naime. So with oral communications, we can't really engage, but we very much appreciate that, and you touched upon a lot of things we are going to discuss here tonight. So, no more. Okay. So next we will move on to I believe there are no changes to the agenda.
Correct.
And we will move on to the approval of the minutes from our March 3rd, 2025 meeting. Has everyone read them? Is there anything to discuss? Or would someone like to make a motion?
I just had a quick, very minor comment that I think in the oral communications, we had the vet art representative here. Should that have been listed? I think that was last meeting that the representative for vet art came to talk about the Saturday and Sunday art workshops in the parks. So
I think she
actually just came and attended the meeting, but she did not make a presentation and she didn't share at the oral communications.
oh, that
So
wasn't during.
no, it was
okay.
shared in the staff report.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Because I don't,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure we weren't missing something.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. All right.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Great. Everybody, love your mic, please.
Let the record show that the motion to approve the minutes passes unanimously with all commissioners voting yes.
Thank you. And so we will move on to item 8, action items, and 8A, our annual work plan. I believe there are 3 updates, 2 just as informational updates, and then a third for discussion. The first is the youth piano concerto competition, sorry. And we have Commissioner Morakovitz giving an update.
Sure. The piano competition is underway. We planted the seed in the fall, and now it has germinated and budded into a beautiful flower. Maybe Colette could maybe share either now or during the informational. I don't know if you'd like to elaborate.
Just that we received a number of entries for the preliminary, and there are 6 musicians who have moved on to the finals, and those winners will, I'm sorry, there were 9, who will move on to, the winners will move on to perform with the North Coast Symphony Orchestra at the concert on June 14th. And tickets for that concert will be available very soon.
Fantastic, super exciting. And then we'll move on to the under visual arts. You have an update?
I do. I just wanted to share that the exhibition proposal window for 2026 has opened. So artists who are interested in putting forth an exhibition proposal, either 2D or 3D, either solo or as a group, may put that through, and the deadline is near the end of August. So you have some time. Go to the city's website, encinitasca.gov/arts, and links will be able to get to from there.
Fantastic. So we'll all do our best to put the word out for that. And then we'll move on to an update for the Encinitas Sculpture Loan Program, which the ad hoc has been working on. And we will run through a potential presentation. Once again, we kind of cleaned up the slides and changed the story a bit. And same story, just better told. And part of that is at the end that the staff has put together a report with a city comparison of similar loan programs, so we can ask questions, and we'll look forward to your input and go from there. So we can move to the first slide, please. It's a little bit funny to give a presentation sitting down. I don't know why I'm finding that right now. So, okay. So the presentation agenda, we will give an overview of the loan program. We'll talk about what council directed the commission to do. We'll talk about the commission's approach to that direction. Of course, we'll share our recommendations and then open it up for questions. So the Sculpture Loan Program is pretty awesome. The public art program extends an opportunity to artists to exhibit on loan in Encinitas, while residents benefit from having high quality art publicly at a very low cost to the city. For Encinitas has successfully placed 6 sculptures, but the program can be better. The process was so wrought with challenges in 2024 that Council gave direction to the Commission for the Arts to, 1, establish a more formal methodology of jurying with clearer criteria, and also to consider a public rating threshold for acceptance. So we'll talk briefly about both of those, the selection criteria and public acceptance, and I'll hand it over to Carla just to frame it for us.
Yeah, thank you. So I want you guys to look at these 2 images and imagine for a moment that we sent these 2 images out to a public survey and asked people to rank them on a scale from 1 to 5. So you can probably kind of picture what would happen. I can personally imagine that some people would give the image on the right a 5, and they might be drawn to its sense of calm. They might find it beautiful. And they might even call the other image, the one on the left, harsh or ugly. But I guess just as easily, I could imagine a bunch of people rating the image on the left a 5. They might love its bold colors. They might find it fun and engaging and consider the one on the right dull and uninspired. And I think you can imagine also how quickly the conversation could turn heated. And even if we added criteria like, looking at these, how well does it complement the proposed location? How does it connect to the local community of the proposed location? How does it engage the public? How does it enhance a sense of community? Even, with criteria like that, in a public survey, we're still working with a small self-selected group of people that will respond. And if sort of sticking to this example, we kind of imagine for a second that both of these artists were still alive, they might then also be actively encouraging their friends to vote for them. Oh, sorry. I gotta love my mic. Sorry about that. They would be actively encouraging their friends to vote for their work of art. So I think in this example, it's kind of easy to see how this approach might not be the most efficient or effective way to decide which artwork is the best fit for a public space. It opens the door to popularity contests and polarized opinions rather than thoughtful, sort of mission-aligned choices. So kind of thinking about that, the Sculpture Loan Program, it has a purpose, which is to bring public art into the community, as Katie was just kind of talking about, but it doesn't have a clearly defined mission. And without a shared mission, people simply vote based on what they personally like or dislike. And I'd also say that a public survey doesn't give us the kind of feedback that we need to make informed decisions that truly reflect the value of the community or the goals of the program. So this was a little bit of a silly example, but I think it was something that kind of helps us think through kind of what we're asking and the results that we expect to get.
Great, thank you. And again, I think just to kind of bring it home there, if you had a mission statement that said, we want pink and yellow art in Encinitas, there is a clear fit for that. If we want, something like that. I know it's also a silly example, but we're trying to kind of clarify it's about fitting for the program and for what the community wants, not about comparing two pieces of art and do we like it or do we not like it, or even whether the art is strong. So we took council direction, obviously very seriously, and we decided to find out what the public actually wants from this public art program in order to make some real recommendations. So first thing is that early public engagement on selection criteria aligns the program with Encinitas residents' values and visions for art and shared public spaces. We realized we never really truly know what people want until we ask them. So before we sought that public input, we took two very important steps. We met with a local insights consultant, Catherine Johnson from Some Pigs, I believe it's somebigs.com. She volunteered her time to help us develop a very robust discussion guide so that our questions were clear, unbiased, and meaningful. And then she also circled back with us and helped us analyze the results. We also met with a survey methodologist to discuss the challenges of the existing design and how to find, basically, how do you get the information that you really want. Then, so what did we ask? Some of the key questions were, what role should public art play in our city? We actually gave people a list of all different kinds of roles, and they could kind of pick and choose. When encountering public art in Encinitas, I want to feel blank and blank. How does or can public art benefit the entire community? What types of artwork would you like placed in our public spaces? And public art in Encinitas could be blank, blank, and blank. And we asked different questions as well, and not always the same questions to different groups. We went about it in 4 different ways. We did some focus groups, we did one-on-one interviews, we did random intercepts with people. So here's a map of Encinitas. We went to residential streets and hung out, and we went to populated places like Swami's. We couldn't show you this photo that we had for this slide, which was a group of 5 teenage boys or young men in Leeuwenhoek, who we had a really robust conversation. Surprising, I don't know why it should be surprising, but it was, about public art and, again, the role that it could play. So we feel like we reached a lot of people who are not always reached. From that, we gathered all of those responses. We met again with Katherine Johnson to compile and analyze the results. And we gathered these insights. Basically, why public art in Encinitas, and what does it offer? We want it to be inspiring, joyful, and accessible, to be a storyteller, connector, or visionary, and celebratory and reflective. Again, to reflect local culture. So it's so great. Tonight has a real through line as a meeting to go from the public art that already exists here and very local culture to neighborhood culture, the neighbors of Oceanside and the uniqueness of that place, and to use all of that information to really understand what is Encinitas, what's it about, and how do we celebrate that. So we use these insights to craft a mission statement. And from there, once we had a mission statement, we were able to establish an effective process of jurying. And that also helps make the program attract more submissions. So, yeah, can kind of more to say there, but I'm going to kind of go through. So the mission, public art in Encinitas tells a story that shifts our moment in an uplifting way, that unifies us in new perspectives, and celebrates our unique culture. So now we have a poll star, really. This mission statement, again, generated directly from public input, can be applied across all aspects of the program. The artist call, the jury criteria, the individual and full commissioner reviews, which we'll get to. Council can use it as a rubric. And what's great is that it can also inform other public art programs here in Encinitas. So again, we'll use these insights. We crafted a mission statement, and with that complete, we move on to the jurying process. So it's not that dissimilar to what exists already and to what exists for other programs here in the city, which is great that staff wouldn't have to implement something super new. The first is a submission phase with the call for artists and application. The second is the evaluation phase, which is it would go through a jury panel and then to individual commissioner reviews. From there, it will go to a decision phase where we'll all meet at this meeting and hear from the public input, and then make a recommendation to council. And then finally, the ongoing community involvement is to further promote and engage the public, which really becomes the crux of the program. So the submission phase, again, there's the mission. Public art in Encinitas tells a story that shifts our moment in an uplifting way, unifies new perspectives, and celebrates our unique culture. Please tell us how your sculpture relates to each aspect of the mission statement above. It's very clear, it's very simple, but it is meaningful and gives a lot of space for artists to, I think, share something impactful. From there, it would go to the jury panel review, and as it exists now, that would be a commission ad hoc joined by 5 members of the community. Encinitas residents we're suggesting could apply online to serve on that jury so that we get a diverse group. The criteria, the rubric, and site briefs, these are briefs that we've developed that give the specific requirements of each site and also some of the personality of the site, which are, of course, so relevant to placing sculptures. From there, the jury would move forward 10 to 15 sculptures that would be moved on to the commission. So the individual commission review, this is something that's a little bit new. Each commissioner would take time individually to fill out a standard rubric, write about each sculpture, and then choose 2 per site. So in that way, every sculpture that has made it to this phase gets the time and attention it deserves, whether or not a commissioner is going to choose that it's their suggestion for that site. Again, it focuses on recommending the best fit for the program over like and dislike. And then there are examples and details in a council packet, potentially. I'll show slides of some of those. So the decision phase, again, it would happen at a meeting. And it's important to know we're trying to make the commission here is the first interface for the public, or one of the interfaces for the public that's available. And so, as council may not even call the item at some point, it is at that commission meeting where the public can have a real effect on our recommendations. The same avenues that have been used to notify people in the past of the public survey would be used to notify and really encourage people to come and share what they think. And email is also another avenue where people could share, once the agenda has been posted, what they think, and we could read through all those emails. Which makes me realize when I said we did 4 different ways of engaging with people, the 4th was to review the email comments that have come from the past, because that's really important to keep this ongoing archive and also know that we are continuing upon that and involving people who have already involved themselves. Okay, so increased ongoing and publicity engagement. I really think this is where the program begins to have an impact on the community, of course. Once the sculptures are there, people can have real relationships with them. They'll be there only for 2 years, and your relationship would change. So there's so many opportunities to have programming, art night lectures, presentations, on-site artist talks. We'll have, I think this is already part of the program, that placards on site with artists and program information will be installed, and of course social media. So this recommended process is really accessible, it's transparent, and I think that's what makes it, would make it even more appealing to artists. When we spoke to artists, a lot of the feedback was that the rubric questions were redundant. If you wanted to apply for multiple sites, you could be applying for up to 24, responding to the question 24 different ways in a way. And the commission is confident that it would further the program's success with more sculptures to choose from. So yeah, of course, the benefits to Encinitas is a larger, diversified pool of applicants, and really being able to start to specify the best fit for each space. And the artist benefit, I just kind of talked about. So we wouldn't recommend an increase on the artist stipend. Right now, the insurance is not covered, and we'll go into that a little bit later also. I'm giving this presentation, but I'm also trying to. Again, I think maybe here is a good place to just bring home the fact that this is a loan program. So at base, it's about making this changing stream of varied types of art that becomes an integral part of our shared public landscape. So a lot of public art already exists, as we have seen, and then this is kind of this way to have these sites where people come to expect something new all the time, I think is dynamic. So our recommendation, we think that this mission statement works for all of the reasons we just shared. And here's just a few more aspects to consider that Carla touched on a little bit. So with the public survey not being quite effective, this process eliminates that while still engaging the community, but from the very beginning. And really valuing public comment, and so we've baked it into the ability to for the public to submit comments, but not necessarily to go into vitriol. It eliminates ineffective use of staff time. As I said, it's a similar process to what other cultural arts programs use, and it would be applicable beyond this program. So. Yeah, our recommendations would be to accept the mission statement, to establish this process of jurying, to implement the process to attract more submissions. And then we would go thank you to questions. So we also, maybe I'll pause there just to see how that part of that how that presentation felt, and if there are questions. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. Good job.
Just so you know, with questions, so we have these additional slides here. I'm assuming that you all have looked through. So they're examples.
Yeah, we might connect to that. But okay, since I missed in February when it was initially presented, I was like kind of talking to my laptop, but nobody listened. But anyway, but I remember maybe a couple comments. Like if I'm wrong, let me know. I think that like Commissioner Aber might have said at that time a question about the individual evaluation, the commissioner individual evaluation. And also, I think that maybe Commissioner Fader might have asked about the rubric system too, right? So those were some things that I kind of agreed with.
Let me just hop in here.
Sure.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I'm just realizing maybe it is better to just go through these extra slides.
Okay.
Because they go directly to that. So again, there's this quick overview of requirements. This is just an overview of what's presently done with the city. And then the next slide, we can just skip over that. The current application content, this is what Carla kind of discussed when she was talking about questions you would ask. And then we move on to a site brief. And so again, this is the example just for Site E at Little Oaks Equestrian Park. It has the map and the photos. Those came directly from what the city has now. And then some more photos and considerations and requirements, and plus a little bit of a blurb about the personality of the location. Then the individual commissioner review, this is an example. You'd have a photo, a title, an artist statement, all of the information you would need, what requirements, what sites it meets the requirements for. And the next one is the individual commissioner review. Here's kind of an overview. You break down the mission statement into its 3 parts. Does it do it? Yes or no? Maybe. If it's less clear, and why. And then the next one is actually a written consideration of that piece, and then where you would recommend it for. So those individual reviews we would do at home or wherever, email back to staff. Staff would compile them. And then for that commission review meeting, we would all get that packet. And then there are quotes here, and then some things about the public survey limitations. So just in case that was going to answer any questions before we went into it. So I'm sorry for the interruption, and now.
Okay. Okay. Oh, is that the last one? The last page? Okay. All right. Thank you. I just, okay, so these are some things that I've been thinking about since then, and now it's great to see it be presented live. So after our presenter Hillel, who spoke, I think it's really important that, and I've learned this as an artist myself, a musical artist, it's really important if we're going to have images of art, or if we're going to have recordings of music, it's always important to have the name of the creation and the creator. So just a little bit of a recommendation on that. I'm going to give credit.
That happens now. I mean, those aren't up yet, but that's part of the program, is to have that at each site.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so is my mic working? Okay. All right, question. So first, I'm sure the staff is going to want to be able to take all of the nuts and bolts and kind of condense it into something that they're going to have to put together. So that's my question. How will this be condensed? Let's see. I was wondering, the slide that you had said that how many people did you engage? And the questionnaire, and how many groups, do you have an actual data?
We do have all of the data that we have an addendum going to council.
Okay.
And so we have that.
I was just curious
part of
about
it.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Generally focus groups are about 20, 25 people in around random intercepts, 1, 2 groups.
So I was thinking, I don't know if that's something to consider to pass on to staff. I just want to say the mission statement, I love it. It's wonderful. Perfect wording. The jurying process, I was wondering about, particularly the eval phase, and you mentioned about the rubric. So that seems still seems enigmatic to me, what that might be during the jurying panel with the 5 potential community members and the ad hoc. So do you have like a sample of that, or something that you would like submit to? Yeah.
No, the jury panel, I mean, as it exists right now, that was basically a shared phone call. And we did receive a rubric from staff based on the current criteria. So the rubric would be the mission statement broken into 3 spots, very similar to what the commissioner review would be. And then with the relevance to each site. So the jury the staff takes out any red flags, obviously, then it moves on to the jury. The jury would whittle it down from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the jury would always also have access to the site briefs, so they would really be choosing at least 2 per site that moves forward for the judging. So making sure that they fit all the criteria and that they are best fit with the mission.
Okay. So I was thinking of maybe perhaps, it would be great to have the same kind of rubric system at the jurying phase, which is kind of like a preliminary phase, and then also for the commissioners. They have the same thing. So I like that how you broke it down with the objectives, but I'm not sure about the yes and the no, because it seems like if somebody says yes to something, it's like, well, to what degree of yes am I saying? You know, like, is it 75% yes in my brain, or is it, 50% yes? So I was thinking a rubric, you have descriptors. So, and maybe I might suggest some kind of like point system or like that, because yes or no is like, it's like a coin toss. And that's just what I was thinking about. And I was wondering about the decision phase. What would be the determinant, excuse me, to be forwarded for the commission to forward art or not to council? I guess that I'm still on the fence about like yes or no or maybe. Like there should be more of a spectrum of maybe with some points. And I really like the public engagement afterward. I think that's fantastic to keep it going. Again, after I felt very impacted by Hilal's presentation, maybe perhaps is something that the commission could talk about, like some kind of website that could keep a catalog of all of the art in Encinitas or something like that, and like so that when people pass by and they see art, they can see again the name, the artist, and maybe there could be some kind of QR code. And last but not least, I would just say, just check our spellings of our names. That's about it.
Apologies.
No, that's all right. Morokovitz is hard. It comes in
Many
different
times
spellings.
doing things
But,
not allowed to sleep. No, I apologize. That's embarrassing.
No.
Yeah, so
Just
Colette?
reminders to use your mics.
yeah. So at this point, we're bringing it again. It's great to get feedback. We're hoping to vote kind of to be done with it at this point. We've been working obviously longer than any of us anticipated. And staff has done a comparative city review. As is always, we would make a recommendation, and then staff would compile that and into an agenda report and bring in any other information that they thought to bring in, and the ad hoc could work with staff to talk about how it is delivered to council. So I think tonight we're really looking just to see, again, I don't want to get lost in the details here. I think it's basically like, has this been a good process? Is it good? Everything can continue to be worked on. Everything can continue to change. But is it good enough to kind of go forward and say, hey, this is the process as it exists. This is how we think it could be better. And yeah.
If I may say, I just think should have some good data or documentation to pass on to them. And of course, this is all theoretical. It's all, and we haven't really tested it on anything yet. And that's, so that, it's the unknown, if it would work.
Are there additional comments?
Can I motion to approve it?
Yeah, I just see Dave's hand go up again, so.
Thank you, and I think this is the most I've gotten to speak at any commission meeting. So, thank you. I appreciate that. One, thank you for the effort in doing this and putting together a recommendation. This is a lot of work. Not only was it a lot of work to put this together, but it was a lot of pieces coming together through City Council in the past, through this program in the last year, to help move this along. Not so much. There's maybe some questions. It's really just more of a insight and as a perception. The sharing, and as this goes forward, there might be some crafting, but a lot of the answers are in here. What I remember from council, not only from their questions specifically on that, but through the process, was I think council's desire is to follow a path, which is what you put together here, in which it gets back to them when they have the art pieces. We're not being so much asked to pick one or another, but to understand how the process went, and to accept and approve the art that's been chosen or recommended to them. I think a couple other things I've heard over the year is they want to see that the piece fits the park it's going into. So part of the discussion, both from the artist, but also from the public when they're like pre-discussion with the public, and then how the decision comes through is how does it fit that specific park, that community. And that continued process is maybe, well, not just a maybe, but to get to know the artist to understand the art. Because art's, a lot of perception involved in art and the confusion on what it was meant. And so I found it interesting that Deanne's piece in Cardiff, I don't know that we fully understood, or at least understood in council, the advantage that art piece had there, that it spun, it went with the light, and it created art that wasn't just in front of you, but it creates art on the sidewalk. And I know on the visits, and then the hearing from people from that community, how much they enjoy that part. I don't know that I'll ever get over the discussion that night for Neptune Jr. and the questions that were brought forth by the public, and the fact that when the artist was here and could answer some of those questions, it really helped. And like, wow, I sat here and thought, wouldn't it have been great if we had had that opportunity to ask those questions before we got to council, those follow-up. And so as we've seen Pacific View Arts Center grow, and where does it fit in this process? You know, we have Pacific View sessions, and we're interviewing as part of that process music artists that could be performing here. There's the opportunity to do that with artists as part of one of the steps. And then you as a commission having even more of an invite to the public to come and talk about those art pieces. So today we're going to talk about Leucadia, and these are the art pieces that are being considered for it, and throwing it out there for the public to come and hear what the artist has to say about it, and then give you their input there. And then that's something I'm hearing the council talk about a lot, in not just art, but across the board. What did you do to reach out to the public? What was the public's input? Not so much specifically, it is very important what they said, but it's not a vote that 5 people came and said they liked it, 4 people said they didn't, but what did they say? Why did they like it? How, the ones that took enough time to consider the connection to the park, what was the value as a commissioner that you pulled from it? And then sharing that to council. So, like I said, not so much questions. I appreciate all the effort that's been put into this. I think there's a lot here. It's there. I mean, this is, staff's going to work on it. We'll bring it back when we're getting ready to go to council. I think this is in a good place. Like I said, it's a lot of work, and I appreciate all the effort that you've done to put it there.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
I think you bring up a lot of good points, and it's, again, everything's so great once we really start talking about it. We would, let's see, just as far as, again, the constraints with the commission and the constraints with this specific program. So it is a loan program. They're up for 2 years. They're existing sculptures that people have ready to loan. They are not commissioned pieces for specific places. And, you know, the last expedited call, we got 7 submissions, or 7 viable submissions. And so I love this idea that, yeah, we could have the artist come just for one site, right? Or 3 artists per meeting. We meet once a month. I would be happy to hold as many special meetings as we could, but we have been told, you know, special meetings require staff time and city money. So I love these ideas, and when we first started brainstorming, we had a lot of them, and then we whittled a lot of that down because of the realities, just some of those examples. Yeah, I think it's great. Like, take this work and see what we can do, and be creative about it from there as well. All of the points of community engagement, I think that idea of having artists interviewed, all of that is so right. And does it happen before a sculpture is placed? Honestly, I think it's a really good question. Like, if it's for a commissioned piece, yes. No question. If if it was a huge money pull, even if it were up for 2 weeks, yes. But it's not. It's such a little bit of money. It's and it's anyway. I'm repeating myself now, but I think the point is that there's so many creative ideas in this room that and some real very good work done, and I appreciate your appreciation of that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing where it goes from here.
I also just want to say thank you for all the work you've done here. And I think that this, what you've put together and the mission and the purpose, is clear. I think, it's easy to get lost in the process and forget that really this is like an amazing opportunity for us all in the community to get to know artists and their work better through this program and just through being able to see it in the, in public purview. And so I think that you just really highlighted like that is kind of the goal is like get to know the artists, get to know the art, have it be in a place where, the park complements, and vice versa. So, just want to say thank you.
That site brief example is a pretty good one because there's photos. There's actually a sculpture placed in those photos. It's not just of the site, and so it kind of speaks to, wow, we all said yes to that. Council said yes to that, and yet you cannot see that sculpture for a good part of the year because it's trees that with leaves that turn color and fall off. And so it's just those considerations like, okay, for that site, no brown sculptures. And so that's in there, just little things that you learn and you get better at. Okay, so I don't see any other comments. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think that you guys have done a great job on adding the last few touches to the presentation, and I would move to approve this with, just the corrections of a few page numbers and name spellings. I'd motion to approve it.
Great, I'll second.
The motion passes with all commissioners voting yes, except Commissioner Kodakia, who is absent.
Thank you. Dave, I hope you get to see some of the game. Yeah. Okay, so thank you to all of you, too, for that, and that's helpful. So we will move on to informational items. 9A in the Cultural Arts Division report.
Good evening. I'm going to be really quick as it is, as our meeting is coming to a close, and generally share Pacific View had camp for the first time, 2 weeks of sold out spring break camp. We enjoyed 48 young campers between the ages of 6 and 9 who had a phenomenal time. We gave them a survey, and I'm sorry I meant to bring them with me tonight. I will share them next time. We asked them to give us 3 words to describe it, and we asked them to draw a picture of it. And my favorite comment on it was, the best time of my life. Wow. So how do you, it was fantastic. Everything about it was really good. Programming is continuing to be added. And we will have 8 weeks of summer camp, and there will be new projects, and several of the weeks are approaching being sold out. And we're in a position that if it looks like a waiting list would form that would fill up a full week again, we can add that. So I would encourage anyone thinking about it, even if it says it's full, put your name on the waiting list, because where we see that can fill, we'll take care of that. And there is also extended care for Pacific View Camp, which we know makes a difference for working parents. That was not something we had the capacity to do for spring camp, but we do for summer. And new hours, Pacific View is now open until 8 o'clock on Thursdays. Pacific View Sessions is a broadcast program that the public can come and get that behind-the-scenes look at how that kind of thing is done. It's gotten off to a great start. We've had 2 artists so far. So if you're interested in seeing that, these 2 rooms at Pacific View are really wonderful educational opportunities to see how things are done. And then there's a whole host of programming that can happen where you can learn to do those things yourselves.
That's Thursdays at what time?
The program itself is 6 to 7:30, and then it's recorded, edited, and comes out about a week later. We're looking at ways, there is the possibility that we may be able to stream it live. There are often other things happening, public meetings that are streaming, but IT has been working on a way that we might be able to have another streaming channel. So stay tuned. Stay tuned for that. And then city-run programs, we had art night this weekend. Hours changed to be 6 to 8. By all accounts, it was really wonderful. Pacific View was able to participate, so that was a really nice way for even more people to get to experience the center and get to know about programs that are happening there. So in general, all of that art night was spectacular. This Friday, we have Music by the Sea. Stunning cellist and pianist. There are still some tickets. Those concerts have been selling out, and I highly recommend not missing those. It's an inexpensive way to experience excellent music. And after that, there are a number of summer things we are preparing for. Tremonto is coming back for 3 concerts in July, and we've shifted that to be a Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon. The concerts at Moonlight Beach, and then we have 2 more concerts for Music by the Sea. So it's going to be really busy, and your volunteering is always appreciated, and then, of course, sharing these opportunities with the public.
Thank you. It's always kind of astounding how much is going on in the city and how much the Cultural Arts Department is doing and responsible for and making happen. So thank you. And very exciting about camps. I've talked to so many parents who, are crying that their kids aren't making it into summer camps. So yeah, and so it's a good tip about being on the wait list.
And we've tried to price it in a way that makes it approachable, finding that sweet spot between having enough built into it so that we can give the kids a lot of projects, but not so much that it gets too pinchy price-wise.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. So thank you for that report. We'll move on. There are no commissioner member initiated agenda items. And what time do we have? For future agenda items, I was approached by the Parks and Recs Commission to potentially have the Arts Commission give them a presentation about what we are working on to see how they might be able to help a sister commission, and thinking that we may want to invite them to do the same. So if that's interesting, I think it takes 2 of us to want that to happen, and I could write something up for May so that we're able to discuss it then. Yes, I see yeses.
Yeah, if you need someone to sign on, I'd be happy to do that. It sounds like it'd be a cool cross-fertilization. So
Great. We also, the Youth Commission and the Senior Commission are also part of the department. So,
Just,
okay.
if I may clarify, is this a commission-initiated item?
This is a commission-initiated item.
Got it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
no worries.
No staff reports needed.
Yeah, you can do that on your. It's always great to have support, but you can generate that.
Okay.
And if you need me to send you the template for that again, I'm happy to do that.
Sure, I'll just say yes to that. Thank you. Okay, and so we'll move on to commissioner reports. Unless someone else has, there's no. Okay. Does anyone have a report?
Yeah. So in the, let's see, the Art Matters Local Art Agency learning network that we participated in this last month. It was very interesting. Let's see, Christina Sanchez-Kerr from the University of San Diego Nonprofit Institute and Daniel Ennemark from Policy and Innovation Center. It's a think tank in San Diego. We're both there and talked about surveys, which was very interesting, specifically what we did for our sculpture loan program. So, yeah, it was kind of reaffirmed some of the things that we already learned from the Insight consultants. One of sort of the takeaways was the importance of qualitative research before quantitative research. I think one of the speakers talked about before you could do a survey, you have to be an anthropologist, and before you can be an anthropologist, you have to be a friend. So really ensuring that the approach is grounded and centered around sort of the voices of the community, and kind of understanding what the voices of the community are before you and using that to inform your survey. So that was very interesting.
Any other reports?
I'll just say really quickly, as the liaison to the Cultural Tourism Committee, I attended the last meeting, and I think Dave brought up this Pacific View Sessions. I don't know if that'll be coming up in a future report, but it sounded like a pretty cool idea with musicians. I guess it's an educational peek into how a broadcast program is put together, but there are various musicians that cycle through who perform. Is that?
Yeah, that was the program I was talking about, that we may get a live stream option, but is at the moment it gets recorded on Thursday nights and then is put out on the city's YouTube channel for all to enjoy, usually by the following Wednesday afternoon. As it's a new program, we're working on getting that fine-tuned and maybe running a little bit quicker, but for now, it's running incredibly smoothly for the first two sessions.
Great.
And the public may enroll in that. There's not a lot of seats in there, and a lot of that depends on the number of musicians because we have a limited room capacity there. So sometimes it may be as few as 5 participants if it's a larger group of musicians, or it could be on this past Thursday. I think we had 8 people who came. So that part will fluctuate depending upon who the musicians are.
Yeah.
And as we get closer to some of the concerts that the city is putting on, we're going to tie into those musicians to build enthusiasm about who's coming and try to be very broad in the genres of music.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Yeah, it was great to hear.
Okay, any other reports? I'll just say quickly, I saw Rosemary's beautiful piece at the Fez Gallery in Carlsbad. Went to the opening the other night and was a total pleasure. And also some really beautiful art from the Artists Guild in Balboa Park. So that's up for a month. I encourage you all to go see it. And the Fez Gallery, I think it changes every month almost, so not every month. Oh, May 31st. Thank you for the update. All right. So with that, we will adjourn tonight's meeting at... That's right. San Diego Museum of Artists Guild show, group show at the Fez Gallery in Carlsbad. We will adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you all very much. At 4:59.
Oh. With the correction to the time.
Correction to 6:58.
Yes.
Sorry.
So I know that, like, unfortunately, I don't
area